So earlier this week, I made a post in the community tab of my channel asking my subscribers for any questions that they wanted me to answer directly. So today we're going to be doing just that. For those of you who are new, my name's Matt and I'm a current associate at BCG, which is a management consulting firm. And I make these videos because I enjoy it, but also because I would have wished that somebody would have made these for me when I was younger. If you like the topic of today's video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. But anyways, let's get to it. Now, the first question is from Lights of a Dreamer, who says, "Hey Matt, thanks for all the informative videos. I would like to ask you, how do you approach people, especially those who are already working in the firm, for case mocks? And how many case mocks are suitable before landing an offer? Thank you." Great question, and a question that I get asked a lot in networking calls with students and at info sessions. Now, I think there's two parts to this question. The first is, how many cases do I need to do? And then the second is, how do I even get people who work at these firms that I want to interview and work at to agree to help me do a mock case interview? And I'll answer the first part of the question first. So how many cases do you actually need to do? The answer is it depends, but I personally, when I was interviewing for consulting, I did probably 20 cases on my own through like self-studying. And then when it came to actual cases that I did live with consultants that worked at the firms that I wanted to work at, like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, that number was probably closer to 8 to 10 because there was about 5 people that I had networked with or knew who worked at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. And I did about 2 practice mock cases with each of them. And so some of you might be thinking, wow, that's actually not as many as I thought. And I think that the real key takeaway here is you don't actually need to do that many cases as long as you are improving and getting good feedback that is actionable from people that are casing you. Now, obviously, you do need to do self-studying on your own, and I did do about 20 cases self-studying by myself, but when it comes to live practice, this is where having an interviewer who really understands what to look for and what a successful case sounds like is going to be major key because they're going to help you improve just a lot quicker. And so it's not necessarily about quantity, but rather the quality of each mock case. Now, moving to the second part of the question though, how do you even begin to ask somebody to do a case with you, right? And it's a pretty intimidating thing, especially if you're a student and you have maybe networked with a couple consultants, but you're kind of scared to ask if they want to help you out. And you know that doing a case takes at least an hour, split between doing the actual case and then getting feedback afterwards. And so it's a pretty big time commitment, and most people who work in consulting are quite busy, especially during the week. And so you might not know how to tell if somebody is open to it or how to even ask. And so I'm gonna make it really simple for you. So step 1 is you network with as many consultants as possible. And step 2 is during the conversation, try to get a sense of how the conversation's going. And if it's going well, then near the end of the conversation, you can start talking about interview prep. And you can ask them for interview prep resources or tips and just move the general conversation in that direction. And then at a certain point, you wanna say something along the lines of, "Hey, I've been doing a lot of self-studying, but would love to get some more live practice in. Is there any chance you'd be open to running through a quick case with me at some point?" And based on their reaction, they might say, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." Or they might say, "No, sorry, too busy." Or they might say, "Sure, but this week doesn't work for me, let's do next week." The worst thing that they can say is no, and that's totally fine because at the end of the day, not everybody is going to say yes to sitting down and doing a live case with you. But that's generally how I would approach it so that you don't come across as being too pushy, but you're still asking politely and being clear about what you're actually looking for. Now, the other situation, which is a little bit more nuanced, is if you have a actual interview coming up, and so there's more urgency there. And in that case, I would really just explicitly say, "Hey, look, I have an interview coming up next week with X firm. I have been doing a lot of self-studying, but would honestly love to get some live case practice in. Is there any chance you'd be willing to case me over the next week?" And usually with that higher sense of urgency, more people are likely to agree to case you because they get it and they understand that, look, when there's time pressure, every second counts, and so they're more willing to pitch in their time to help you out. Okay, so the next question is from Elf Product, who asks, "What's your process/game plan for steering your own path at BCG? As you progress and climb, you will undoubtedly get more exposure to certain areas than others. So my question is, how do you find your interests and steer your path towards them?" Great question, first of all. and a very valid one as well, because consulting, you typically go in as a generalist, and so you have the opportunity to really explore a lot of different areas and work on different projects with different teams. And at the same time, while this is great, it can also mean that it's difficult sometimes to identify the specific topic area or function that you really want to dive in and focus on as you become more senior. So the way I think about this is there's really two different approaches that people take when they join a consulting firm. Now, the first approach is what I like to call the architect approach, and the second is what I like to think of as the archaeologist approach. The architect approach is before you even go in, you have a very set, clear plan of what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna do it, and who I need to talk to and / work with in order to get to that point. And so these are the people that go into consulting literally knowing, hey, I specifically want to work in healthcare. I want to work on healthcare strategy. I want to work specifically on biopharma within healthcare. And so they have a very clear idea of what they want. And so when they join, they go in and they specifically try to get work in those areas, and they network with people in those areas. On the other hand, you have the archaeologist approach, which I think a lot more people do, and which I personally do advocate for, is, you dig a little bit here, you dig a little bit there, and basically you sample different types of projects across different industries with different teams, and slowly begin to get an idea of what the bigger picture is, which is, what do I actually like? What do I enjoy? What do I want to work on? Who do I enjoy working with? And I personally, when I came to BCG, had a bit of both. So I came in with a little bit of an architect mindset, thinking that, hey, I want to do a lot of private equity due diligence work within consumer. But over the past year and a half that I've been at BCG, and I've worked on many different projects in healthcare, consumer, fintech, across a bunch of different project types, I've begun to also adopt the archaeologist approach of realizing that, hey, I didn't realize that I was going to enjoy a healthcare-focused implementation project. But now that I've had the experience, I've actually learned that I want to do more work in that area. So over time, what I'd say is the way that I have shaped my path at BCG and steered my experiences and really developed a sense of what I want to do going forward has been based on the past cases that I've worked on. And each time I get a better sense of what I actually like to work on and who I like to work with. And so the way it works at BCG is, as you build a network of senior people and also a track record of the types of cases that you've worked on, you begin to get staffed on more projects similar to those. And so there's a little bit of networking, there's a little bit of really advocating for yourself, talking to your staffer and saying, hey, I want to work on this type of project. And slowly over time, that's how people begin to really shape their path in consulting. And it's actually quite easy to talk about why you want to do a specific type of project, because you're either going to say, hey, I've done a lot of work already like this, and therefore I've enjoyed it and I want to do more of it. Or if you have never done a project like that, what you will say is, hey, I've done a lot of work in this other area, but I really want to get more exposure to this new area. And so it's a little bit easier if you've already done projects in that area, but people in consulting firms typically understand that, hey, you don't have total control over which projects that you work on, and it is generalist at the beginning, and so they're quite open to bringing new people on who haven't had that specific type of case experience prior. But great question. So the last question that we're going to answer today is from Brandon, who says, hey Matt, I'd first want to thank you for your videos because they've been a great help to me in making a decision to get into consulting. Thanks, man. I'd like to ask, consulting is very demanding and one needs to be sharp most of the time to succeed. How do you keep yourself focused most of the time, and how do you ensure that you stay on top of the game? Much love from Kenya. Thanks, Brandon. Now, to be honest, even from my experience, it's not easy to stay motivated 100% of the time. Even I have periods where I don't feel motivated or I don't enjoy what I'm working on and I just feel like I'm kind of dragging myself to work every day. Everybody goes through periods like that when they're working, and that's totally normal. But I think with consulting specifically, since it's a pretty demanding job and it often demands a lot of your physical and mental energy, a big part of succeeding in the job is really just, one, taking care of yourself, and two, setting boundaries. And it's something that I personally struggled a lot with when I first joined the workforce, and that I know a lot of people struggle with in the beginning is setting boundaries, right? Because you want to do a good job and you want to demonstrate that you're committed, but at the same time, you're a human being and you have a life outside of work and you care about things besides just your work. And so with taking care of yourself, I would say this is really like, I know it sounds cliche, but you gotta exercise on a regular basis. It's gonna make you just more energetic and more motivated. And you also gotta take care of your mental health. So whether that means doing some meditation or journaling or even seeing a therapist, and you'd be surprised how many consultants go to therapy. So it's not like a weird thing to do, but really just taking care of your both mental and physical health so that you can be your best self at work every day is major priority number one. Priority number two, setting boundaries. I don't just mean at work, setting boundaries with your team. I also mean on the weekends when you're not working, you should be using this time to recharge. And so sometimes that means, hey, if you've had a really long week, maybe you need to say no to getting lunch with friends one time because maybe you know that you're gonna be feeling really drained and you don't have energy and you just won't be able to be your best self. I think selectively saying no to things is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because it will allow you to regenerate and recharge, and it also really forces you to think about what your real priorities are so that you don't stretch yourself thin over multiple commitments. But anyways, I also have one announcement to make, which is that I will be doing a resume review video at some point. And so if any of you watching are interested in getting some actionable feedback on your resume from me, then feel free to fill out the Google form that I will leave in the description below. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.